Hey team, so today's question is from Arid Sohan, and he asked, is lactate threshold training the most important thing to become a faster and better runner? For example, Dean Karnazes once ran 350 miles in 80 hours and 44 minutes, and it is said that he has super efficient lactate threshold. Also, I've heard that Lance Armstrong also had super efficient lactate threshold. I keep hearing this word, lactate threshold training is some kind of game changer, or is it a game changer? I mean, without question, it's athletes that have a much higher capacity to accumulate higher amounts of lactic acid and be able to clear it and be able to sustain pace for long periods of time. There are athletes out there that can do that, and Dean Karnazes and Lance Armstrong obviously are examples of that. They probably have very, very high, I know Lance Armstrong does, and I'm sure Dean Karnazes, his VO2 max is probably very, very high. It's not the only variable. As I talk about in other videos, there's multiple factors that go into being a faster and better runner. There's some athletes out there that just run, that are very consistent with their mileage. Maybe they don't do as much speed work. I mean, I've known numerous athletes over the years that just run consistent mileage and are very strict with putting in consistent, 50 to 100 mile weeks, and they don't really get involved so much with speed workouts, and they run great times. Could they be even faster if they implemented VO2 max training, if they started focusing on doing longer tempo runs, implementing fartlek workouts and hill repetitions in their routine? Probably. But again, every athlete's different, and I know Dean Karnazes, he's the guy's a beast. I mean, Lance Armstrong, obviously, regardless of his past, I mean, he was still a great cyclist, and even a great runner too. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he ran like a high 240, maybe a 248, 246 marathon time as well. So there are athletes out there that train heavily at the anaerobic. At their aerobic capacity, at their anaerobic capacity, and then there's other athletes that do a high amount of volume in terms of aerobic running and get great results as well. So there's some athletes that run much lower volume in terms of mileage, but get better results than athletes that are running really high mileage. And then the opposite is true. There's athletes out there that are running 100-mile weeks that are getting much better results than athletes out there doing 20 to 30-mile weeks. Again, every athlete's different. I do know that at least in terms of the physiological adaptations that occur from doing lactate threshold training, you will recruit more fast twitch muscle fibers by doing this type of training, as well as doing VO2 max training, where again you're running anywhere from 86 to 88% at the anaerobic threshold, or 95 to 100% running at your VO2 max. It just depends on the athlete, but lactate threshold training in and of itself is not a guarantee that you're going to run a new personal best, or you're going to run faster than you ever have. You have to focus your attention on all the other factors that go into running a great time: hydrating well, getting enough sleep, jogging on recovery days, getting beyond what pace you're running, especially on recovery days. I always reiterate this in the videos, because I think that athletes get caught up with, well, I ran 10 miles easy today and my pace was this. Well, it's important, but at the same time, what's really important is those track workouts, doing example like this, doing lactate threshold training when you're doing longer tempo runs, especially if you're trying to get faster. Again, if your goal isn't a race-specific time, and it's just to compete in a marathon, or maybe run your first 5K, or run a 10K, you don't necessarily need speed work in order to do that. You can still get great results just by building an enormous amount of endurance, an enormous amount of easy aerobic mileage. A lot of athletes really get some great results by doing that. But it does come into play, athletes, especially like Dean Karnazes. I know he doesn't probably do a ton of speed work. I mean, the guy just runs a ton of mileage. He's an ultra marathoner. I mean, he's excellent at what he does, and he's strong because, again, he's run enough over a long enough period of time that, again, you build up an enormous amount of endurance, strength, and stamina from doing those types of workouts, just consistent mileage, over a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And and not really taking a ton of time off. I think taking time off is important, but there's some athletes that just seem to run year round, and I commend those athletes. I think it's incredible that they do that. I always needed it, about a month off each year from training. I would train about 11 months out of the year. I would take two 2-week breaks during my marathon training, and in between that marathon training, I would have, I'd be racing 5Ks, 10Ks, 10 milers. But I think that, your question is lactate threshold the most important thing to become a faster and better runner? It's one of many things in order to be a faster, better runner. Lactate threshold training is definitely essential, especially if you want to run faster and you want to, improve your body's lactate tolerance. You have to do lactate threshold training, especially if you're going after faster times. If your current 10K time is, say, 55 minutes and you want to get down to 45 minutes, it's just going to be much more difficult to achieve that particular goal if you're running a high amount of mileage at too aerobic of an effort. Yes, you're going to, like I said, you're going to be extremely strong endurance-wise, but to drop 10 minutes off of a 10K time, you do have to spend more time training at the anaerobic threshold. You do have to do that speed, working on your leg speed and build upon that. And you have to focus in again on the other factors that go into running to being a faster and better runner. If you feel any type of injury, don't continue to run on it. Focus on the other things that the professional athletes out there that do. Ice baths after track workouts, ice baths after long runs, Epsom salt baths, getting massage once or twice per week. A lot of those things, those additional things, really will help you in the long run. And again, I think that these athletes that you mentioned, Dean Karnazes and Lance Armstrong, I mean, obviously phenomenal athletes, but it's the process we never see. We always see Dean Karnazes out running great times over 350 miles in 80 hours and 44 minutes. I mean, that's phenomenal. We've seen Lance Armstrong and how he's competed in the Tour de France, but we never see the hard work that was put in. We only see the end result. And I created a video called Process versus Event versus Process. So I'll leave a link to that here in the video, and definitely check that out. I go into specifics because I think that's what we never see. We just see the end goal. We don't see what was put in. But again, lactate threshold, it's one of many factors that go into being a better runner. And again, if I missed something in this video, feel free to leave me a comment below. I will reach back out to you, Arid, and I hope this video answers your question. I appreciate it, and wish you and everybody else here on the channel the very best in your training and in your racing. And again, if there's any other questions or concerns you have, feel free to leave me a comment below any of my videos. I will definitely reach back out to you, and check out the resources below my videos as well. I have training plans, I have running courses, personal one-on-one coaching, as well as consultation calls if that's something that you're interested in. You want to jump on a call with me for an hour, we can discuss your goals, your training goals, your changes that you want to make in your preparation. And I've had a lot of athletes that consider those consultation calls to be very helpful as well. So I wish you all the best in your training and your racing, and I will talk to you all in the next video.